Hey, architecture firm owners and emerging leaders. Get ready for unparalleled insight into the development of a world-class architecture firm and a worldwide organization driving the digital transformation of the design and construction industry. With Build Smart, the podcast that's changing how our profession operates. We share the incredible stories behind innovation in the building industry with my friend and co-host, Patrick McLeamy, FAIA, former CEO of the international architecture firm, HOK.
You know, Yamasaki's office or firm lasted during his lifetime. And when he passed away, I think that was the end of the Yamasaki office. Helmut did not want that. He wanted a firm that would live out and grow beyond the founders.
In Season 1, discover the untold stories behind HOK's meteoric rise, from 150 employees in St. Louis to a powerhouse with over 1,900 staff members and 27 offices worldwide.
You know, they weren't as polite as the Kojima people. That was just boom. And anytime you have a creditor, whether it's Kojima or the bank, that wants their money, unless you can raise money someplace else, you are out of business.
Bankrupt. And hold on tight for Season 2, where Patrick takes us on a new adventure as chairman of Building Smart International, shaping the future of digital transformation in the design, construction, and operation of built assets.
Ian Howell, Ken Harold, and I, Ken was my technical representative from HOK. The three of us took a tour of Europe of 5 cities in 5 days. Very busy time.
Simply follow the link in the show notes to subscribe to Build Smart now and uncover lessons that will transform you and your architecture firm. Hey, architecture firm owners and emerging leaders. Get ready for unparalleled insight into the development of a world-class architecture firm and a worldwide organization driving the digital transformation of the design and construction industry. With Build Smart, the podcast that's changing how our profession operates. We share the incredible stories behind innovation in the building industry with my friend and co-host, Patrick McLeamy, FAIA, former CEO of the international architecture firm, HOK.
You know, Yamasaki's office or firm lasted during his lifetime. And when he passed away, I think that was the end of the Yamasaki office. Helmut did not want that. He wanted a firm that would live out and grow beyond the founders.
In Season 1, discover the untold stories behind HOK's meteoric rise, from 150 employees in St. Louis to a powerhouse with over 1,900 staff members and 27 offices worldwide.
You know, they weren't as polite as the Kojima people. That was just boom. And anytime you have a creditor, whether it's Kojima or the bank, that wants their money, unless you can raise money someplace else, you are out of business.
Bankrupt. And hold on tight for Season 2, where Patrick takes us on a new adventure as chairman of Building Smart International, shaping the future of digital transformation in the design, construction, and operation of built assets.
Ian Howell, Ken Harold, and I, Ken was my technical representative from HOK. The three of us took a tour of Europe of 5 cities in 5 days. Very busy time.
Simply follow the link in the show notes to subscribe to Build Smart now and uncover lessons that will transform you and your architecture firm. My name is Mark R. LePage, and you are listening to Entree Architect Podcast, where each week I speak with inspiring, passionate people who share their knowledge and expertise, all to help you build a better business as a small firm entrepreneur architect. Katherine, Georgeson, welcome to Entree Architect Podcast.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Mark.
As a child, Katherine knew 2 things for certain. She would become an architect, and she was not a boy. Katherine has a very unique perspective. She has witnessed and experienced the profession from the perspective of 2 genders. We discussed gender stereotyping here in the podcast in the past, and we've discussed the frustration of gender stereotyping in the private Entree Architect community Facebook group in the past. It's an important issue. My wife, who's also an architect, she's a licensed architect. She's my business partner. She leads all of the architectural services in our firm. She experiences the profession differently than I do as a man. She's treated differently. She's respected differently. She needs to earn her credibility every time as a professional. Every time she meets someone, she needs to earn that credibility as an architect. Katherine is a very accomplished architect. She's an acclaimed architect with dozens of design awards. She's a fellow of the American Institute of Architects. She's an active member in the Entre Architect community, and she has a very interesting story. And I wanted to learn that story. I wanted to hear that story and share it with you. So, Katherine, thank you very much for coming on and joining with me today on this podcast.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad to be here with you.
I'm looking forward to this conversation. Let's start with your origin story. When did you discover your passion for architecture, and who or what inspired you to become an architect?
Well, as you sort of alluded to in your statement on me, it was forever. I mean, it was from a young child on. I was always building things, if it was Lincoln logs or American bricks, or those were before Legos. I had a train set, an HO train set very early on, and was always working on that and building the buildings on the set and the scenery and new layouts and that. We also lived in the city I grew up in, or the town I grew up in. The university was across the street, and this was the late the 50s and 60s. And they were on a building boom. So there was always construction going on around us. The neighborhood was full of these old Victorian homes. And as they would expand the university, instead of demoing them, they would move them. So every once in a while, there'd be the big house moving down the street. And they would move them to to the suburbs or the outskirts of town and build these little cul-de-sacs of historic Victorian homes. The town was an old lumber town, so these huge homes were all magnificently detailed and had just incredible woodworking and that even at that time they couldn't part to tear down. So we grew up in a large Victorian. Literally 2 houses down from me was a Frank Lloyd Wright home, one of his minor works, but it was very different in this neighborhood.
Yeah.
And the university and the museum, so we were always just sort of experiencing all this different sort of art and architecture. Thinking back, I think my grandmother was was probably a frustrated architect or wanted to be an architect, because she would always drive us around to the construction site. So on the weekends, we'd tour homes under construction. Again, this was a big building boom era.
Yeah.
So we'd walk through homes under construction. We'd drive through downtowns, and she would tell us about how there should be mixed use development and that people should be living upstairs and the rest, and all this kind of stuff. We talk about today is how to rejuvenate a downtown and that. So she designed her own house, which is still a magnificent modern sort of statement.
What was your grandmother's background?
She was a small business. Her parents owned a grocery store, butcher shop. So she more or less got that business, although then her husband, my grandfather, took that over. But she ran the business side, and he did all the sort of
so do you have any idea, because clearly she was inspired by architecture, she was interested in it, she wanted to teach you about architecture. Do you have any idea why she was so interested in it? I mean, to take your grandchildren on a ride to construction sites and tour houses under construction is not typical. So I'm wondering, what inspired that in her? Do you know?
Yeah, I don't really know, and I, and finding when you're a kid, this is just what you do,
Right.
right? I mean, you
Right.
just
Exactly.
follow along. But, thinking back on her and hearing different stories, from my mother, um, things that I didn't realize, that I had always assumed were sort of, driven by my grandfather, were really driven by her. So she definitely was a very independent woman and very um, uh, headstrong.
Yeah.
uh, but at the time, and that always sort of had to take a back seat, um, and they had two daughters, my mother and my aunt. My aunt went into small business, uh, ran beauty shops. I mean, that again was something that women did at that time.
Yeah.
Um, and my mother, that was what my mother was supposed to do, but she kind of like went off, and started the family and everything. But when she went back to work, she went back at a manufacturing company, and sort of worked her way up through, key punch operator to an engineer, project manager on some pretty major, as a truck manufacturer, a pretty major um, development of one of their major product lines. So, it was always these sort of, I mean, yes, I had the boy's perspective or the
Yeah.
guy's perspective, or at that time, uh, but it was always strong women around me, and I thought that was just the way the world was. I didn't know, and being across from the university, and the neighbors were
Yeah.
all professors, and some were faculty, some, and that. So it was a very sort of socially liberal sort of area that we were in. So. Um,
So do you remember the moment that you understood what an architect was and decided you wanted to do that?
Um, well, again, yeah, I mean, again, it was really early on. My uncle, my aunt's wife, husband, had a friend who was a developer, residential developer in Milwaukee. So they would always get the blueprints for me.
Yeah.
So I was always getting these blueprints and looking at it. And my dad had a friend who was also a who was a house designer. In Wisconsin, you can be a residential designer. He
Yeah.
wasn't an architect, but he was a residential designer. So we would go and talk to him and visit him. Oddly enough, it was like he was godparents to my brother, who could care less about any of this stuff. My brother, so he would always send the sketching pads and the architectural books and all that to my brother, and then again I would steal those. And everybody knew that this is what I was interested in. It
Yeah.
was just that he didn't necessarily put it all together. Um, but so it was very early on. So I mean, I definitely had, um, say by second grade, I was pretty. I mean, by third grade, I had a drafting station and all my equipment, and was
Yeah.
was drafting
So
stuff up.
it sounds like you had no choice. That you
I
were
had no
surrounded
choice. Yeah, I
surrounded
had
by
no choice.
architecture. You were being fed architecture. You were being given the tools of architecture. You were touring them with your grandmother.
Yes.
It was like you were being bred to be an architect.
Yes, I have no choice. Um, and you go back to high school reunions and that, and people say, "Oh, you're really smart because you continued through as being an architect." And I'd be like,
Right.
"No, I don't know how to do anything else."
Right. Exactly. I'm the same way. I decided when I was 10, and I put the blinders on and never looked
Yeah, I'm
anywhere
like,
else.
I mean, now within architecture, there's a broad,
Right.
broad scope of things you can do. And I always felt it was, the two things I always felt it was that sort of Renaissance person, and that the other thing that attracted me was that it was a career that never had to end,
Yeah.
that you could do it you could just keep doing it. And there was all the stories, Frank Lloyd Wright, and architects that are going on until their 80s or 90s, and that's really appealing to me. I love that fact of it, that I can always just continue to do what I love doing.
So you went to university and you worked for several architecture firms. When did you start your own architecture firm?
I started it twice. I started one twice. The first firm that I worked for was also a startup, right out of school. A couple professors and a couple students, and we got a great job. We started. The firm started. It was very talent. A lot of talent, a lot of hot ego, and things exploded. And then so I continued on sort of with those, because I had been doing a lot of the marketing and design and that. So I continued on with a lot of those clients and use that as a basis to start a firm. So I that was in the 90s, about 90, 92. And we were modestly successful. We grew to about 4 people. We were getting, I was continuing to work in the arts and the performing arts and cultural projects, which is what the first firm had focused on. So that was great. It was a wonderful. It's a wonderful building type, wonderful clients. They're so passionate about what they're doing.
And that's what you focus on now as well?
And I still try to focus on that.
So did you do that all the way through? Did you sort of be introduced to it in that first firm, and then even though you worked for other firms, did you focus on that building type all the way through?
That was always my focus. That's always been my focus. Yeah, in fact, that's what started the first firm. They had gotten, the founders had gotten an NEA grant to study regional theaters, and then that morphed into designing a regional theater for the Milwaukee, and the firm started off that. We had at that time there was a major recession going on. We had the largest project in the state of Wisconsin. So, and then we won a couple international competitions, and we thought life was perfect.
Yeah. So today you have ORCHESTRA Design Studio. When did you start that?
So that started in about 2013. I had again been with a firm, and we were to kind of focus on this. We had some disagreements on how that should go, and we just said, well, let's just move on, so we did, and we still worked, and I consulted with them for a while and back and forth and that. So it's and during that time is and that's when I started transitioning
with ORCHESTRA.
Yeah. I had always been Katherine with ORCHESTRA. But going back and forth with the previous firm, I really started transitioning sort of under the radar in like 2010, 2009, somewhere around in that area.
So most of your profession, you were a man.
Yes.
And then when you started, and so you started transitioning somewhere in the 2000s. Is that what you said?
Yeah. 2000.
And then when you started ORCHESTRA, you were Katherine with ORCHESTRA.
Yes. I mean, there was that edgy time when you're sort of, you have to have both hats on, so to speak. I didn't know how every client would take it. Again, fortunately, being in the arts, it's a pretty you'd hope it's a pretty
good building type to make a transition.
And for the most part, they were. I mean, I even came out at to my whole industry and peers and everybody at a theater conference.
Wow! So you sort of
about that.
You made the announcement on stage, basically.
Basically.
Wow, that's one way to
Yeah, it
do
was a
it.
session. It was a session on gender, and I thought, what better time? I mean, this was back. Everyone was debating the bathroom bills and all that
Hmm.
stuff, and how
Yeah.
do we react to it as a profession, and how does the um, architectural engineering theater world help address, work with their clients to address gender neutrality and gender, what impacts does that have on architecture? And how do we, work that through with our client, help our clients get through this? Um, and that. So I thought, perfect.
So did you have clients that you worked with both genders? Was there a
Yes,
clean
yes, I
break
did.
between clients?
I did. Actually, the one and a couple of them. One in particular was actually the one that I started the firm with. Um, that it was a small group in mid-state Wisconsin that was trying to do a restoration of a theater, and so I started that. I had worked with them for about a year, and then that was the fallout. It was like, well, that project's too small for us. We don't want to deal with that. And I'm like, we can't just drop them, So that's, I'll take this and do it myself.
Yeah.
So anyway, so they knew me as male, and then the project went on hold for it went on hold during my transition time. And when it came back, I went over and I talked to him, and I was probably a little more androgynous. I was just to tell him, I didn't want to shock him. I just
Right.
and the project had changed a little bit, that it was more of a community center than a theater restoration, because that's where the money was in the city. That's what they had determined through their marketing, or that there was more support there, which is fine.
Yeah.
So when I told them, their response was, everyone was like, well, we want what's in your head, not, we don't care what you look like. But the real response that I always go back to is, you represent exactly what we're trying to achieve. We want to, it's a small town, not very diverse, they're saying, but we want to show that we're welcoming diversity.
Yeah.
And,
so it was
having
actually,
a transgender architect is perfect for that.
Yeah, it fit their brand.
Yeah, it fit their brand. Now, I did have one client, maybe two, that said, fine, we're fine with it, but as the project progressed, you could tell they were not fine with it.
Yeah.
And they were not easy, and they had actually asked me to come to a couple, because we get involved in selling it to the supporters and the donors, and that, and a lot more of public appearances and so forth to promote the projects. I mean, and they had started asking me, even after the transition, just to, well, can you show up in a suit and tie again? Can you? And it just started getting awkward, in the sense that I had sat through one board meeting, and there was a couple of women on the board, and they just started shutting them down. I brought a tax expert, because they were talking about tax credits, who basically wrote many of, it was very involved in writing some of the local tax credits. She wasn't good enough. Well, so I'm like, okay, I see where this is going.
Right.
So, I resigned the commission. I just couldn't see it. At some point it was going to end anyways.
Yeah.
So, why put everybody through that? And there was another project that just it rushed to the end and then ended, and they just didn't want to.
Yeah.
But that, it's not fine. I understand. I can see where they would feel maybe it was a bait and switch. So I can appreciate that. I'm not so forgiving now.
Yeah.
Because they kind of know what they're getting.
Right.
And that, so if I'm misgendered or something, I take a breath and I sort of correct them, and so we do spend some time on proper etiquette.
Yeah.
and that.
So is that something you actively have to do when you meet someone new to work with, or does it depend on the person?
It depends on the group. I mean, again, sort of the arts groups, and the groups, a lot of times by the time the groups have felt comfortable enough to work with me, and they kind of know the story. A lot of times I don't address it up front,
Yeah.
but I feel they know. And then you get in those weird situations is like, well, do they know? Do I tell them? I don't know. I mean, they've never met me before. Well, I don't know.
Yeah. Let's take a break to thank our sponsors for their support of this episode. As architecture demand increases toward pre-pandemic levels and beyond, how are you and your architecture firm keeping up? ARCAT is here to help. ARCAT.com offers several free tools to help architecture and design firms like yours get work done faster. Use ARCAT's powerful search engine to find the right products for your projects, and download BIM, CAD, and specifications right there on the same page without needing to pay or register. It's free. ARCAT.com also offers product videos, catalogs, green reports, product certification information, outline and short form specification generation, and so much more. Visit ARCAT.com today. ARCAT.com is your one-stop solution to help increase your productivity and get more projects done faster. That's ARCAT.com. ARCAT.com. FreshBooks makes it simple to send invoices, post your expenses automatically, track your time for your whole team by project, and get organized with financial reports, communication, and notifications. My favorite feature in FreshBooks is the automated invoice reminders. I think sending invoices and getting paid is one of the biggest barriers to our success as entrepreneur architects. Who has the time? But if we don't send out the invoices, we don't get paid, right? FreshBooks makes it easy to send out your invoices and get paid fast, online with a click of a button. And when your client doesn't pay you on time, FreshBooks will send them a friendly email reminder through a simple system that you control. Sign up for a free 30-day unrestricted trial and get ready for the simplest way to be more productive, organized, and most importantly, get paid faster. Go to entrearchitect.com/freshbooks and enter EntreArchitect in the How Did You Hear About Us section. That's entrearchitect.com/freshbooks. In the last few years, premium outdoor spaces have become a must-have architectural feature. And Infratech outdoor electric heating systems have become the brand of choice among leading architects. Infratech heaters provide energy-efficient ambient warmth that allows homeowners to live outdoors during cooler months. Clients love them because they can enjoy 100 more nights a year outside. Architects love them because of their unparalleled versatility. From heater capacities and colors to mounting options that can either seamlessly disappear or accentuate a space with beautiful decorative coverings. They're also the only comfort heat company to offer smart home integration and hands-free voice-activated control. For over 60 years, Infratech has made their products in the USA at competitive prices. They offer incredible design and live technical support at every stage of a job. A few years ago, I was visiting Sonoma Wine Country in California. It was during the autumn, so it was a bit cool when the sun dropped below the horizon. One evening, we joined a group of friends for dinner at one of the big wineries, and we ate outside on the veranda. That amazing Sonoma sun was setting behind the vineyard, so it was getting rather cool that evening, but we were very comfortable. In fact, the temperature was perfect for an outdoor meal during a cool Sonoma evening. I looked up and around to discover why that temperature was so comfortable and found, yes, you guessed it, an Infratech heater integrated with the design of the wood trellis above our table. All these years later, I know it was an Infratech heater because back at the studio, we were planning a large outdoor space for a client, and outdoor heating was part of that plan, and we ended up specifying 6 Infratech heaters for that project. Their amazing customer support team helped us specify the right units, and we had a very happy and comfortable client. Infratech is specified at the most prestigious properties around the world. Learn why and sign up for a free consultation at infratech-usa.com/podcast. That's infratech-usa.com/podcast. Please visit our platform sponsors today and thank them for supporting you, the EntreArchitect community. Do you feel that clients or contractors or people that you work with in the profession have treated you differently as a woman than they did as a man in terms of respect and knowledge and basically the stereotype of an architect and a female architect versus a male architect?
Yeah, they have. And I did have one project where we transitioned right in the middle of construction. And that was very noticeable that, sitting there at the table and in the discussion, here's the architect sort of like running the meeting. And the next time, literally like 2 weeks later, it was a completely different dynamic. And, and I didn't know, at first I was like, oh, is this because the transgender issue? Is this because of the being, presenting as a woman? And I sort of concluded, again, it was for a university and an arts project on our university. So, I mean, again, a pretty liberal group. I really came to believe that it was more about being a woman, presenting as a woman. And I have had that happen in other meetings, where they didn't know, or they didn't, so they're the same thing. There's just that tendency for guys to talk over other guys, talk over other people. and they do it less with among guys as they do with women.
So what do you do when you run into that situation?
I generally pause and listen. Once in a while, I mean, depending on how long it goes, sometimes I go back and I interrupt them. I'll say, I was talking, let me finish my thought and you can have your thought. If it's just a comment or two, I just let it run. But if they really start going on or trying to command the meeting, I'll say, wait, no, I was talking. I will also do the same thing if I'm sitting there at a meeting and there's other women at the table and somebody interrupts them. I'll stop and say, oh, Janet was talking, let's hear her out. You'll get your turn.
Right. So you need to guide them a little bit.
Yeah. It's and again, I mean, I heard all this from my mother. I mean, she trained dozens of bosses. My ex was well, she still is an architect, and would hear it from her, and that, and you'd sort of observe it in the firms, and even then, as presenting as a guy, I mean, I would try to be very careful of not interrupting, not talking over, making sure everybody got a voice at the table. It was always more of a team effort than, no, it's my ego and my thing. Unfortunately, especially in the larger firms at the time, it was perceived as it was kind of perceived as a weakness. It wasn't perceived as a position of strength. And which surprised me. I mean, now everybody talks about this is what we want to do, but even as far, even 10 years ago or 15 years ago, it wasn't perceived that way. And I'm not sure. I think a lot of people play lip service to it. I'm not sure that a lot of the large firms that have these big establishment, bureaucracies. Yeah. Maybe it's more of the mid-sized firms. I think the larger corporate firms, they see it and they want to be trendsetters, and they're doing what they can. But the smaller and the mid-sized firms that still have the original founders and the old guard, and that they haven't quite as.
Yeah. Do you feel that it was, and I'm quite certain it wasn't easy, but do you think it's easier to have transitioned later in your career than it would have been earlier in your career because of your accomplishments and what you've accomplished in the past?
Yes. I truly believe that. I feel fortunate about that. In the sense that I did have an established record. I mean, I know several transgender architects that are stealth that are in their 20s, that they have not told anybody in their employment that that they're female, that they're transgender females. They're presenting as that, and because of their age and right combination of early hormones and everything, they could pull it off. But they're just petrified, to tell, or when they have told, they've sort of gotten even more sidetracked or derailed than some of the women in the firm, not getting the plum projects, or not even in one person's case, they didn't even get client contact anymore. They were just, derailed. So I do feel the combination of experience and age, I mean, as you get more confident. The other thing that happened after transitioning was I just, and this is true across the board for almost every transgender person I know, that there's such a relief that you're not hiding anything anymore, that your confidence level goes up. You're more open. I mean, I was always kind of closed. I was always told I was closed and angry, too demanding. And now it's like, you're laughing all the time. You're smiling, and I was always I was always afraid someone was going to find out. Or what if they find out? What if they figure this out? It sort of struck me. It was like, if everybody, and even like, I think a lot of people that aren't transgender always feel like they're hiding, or they've got a shield or a mask up, because they're not really being their true selves for whatever reason, in a corporate structure or a firm structure, or the politics of it, or whatever. If everybody could feel this open and free, can you imagine how cool that would be?
Yes.
How productive we would be, how innovative ideas, and where we would push this profession in design and problem solving and inclusion on that. I mean, it would just be, it would be a whole different world, I think to some extent we're getting there. I mean, I have very high hopes for the current generation of students and interns, and young professionals. I mean, they seem totally just a different acceptance level. But again, being a child of the 60s, I had all those hopes back then.
I think things have changed. I
hope it sticks this time.
I have two additional questions before I ask my final question. One is, do you have advice for a young architect who is struggling with that decision to transition? On what, I know that's a big question, but having done it and done it at the time that you've done it, and maybe we're talking to younger architects who are those people who are afraid that if they reveal themselves, their life will be different. Do you have any advice for them at all?
Well, I mean, and again, I yes. I think most, if not all, transgender, gender queer, gender questioning, individuals all kind of come to the same point at some time. It's like, this is so bad that I don't care anymore what happens. I'm going to do it. I'm going to jump. And I think when they do jump off the cliff, you do find you have wings, that it really, whether the cliff was just a step and there's, a soft landing. Now, that doesn't mean like you may not lose your job. I mean, you may lose your job. You may lose, you will lose possibly friends, depending on who you're associated with. I hear horror stories of people losing family and that. But to be honest, I mean, a lot of transgender individuals, the other point is just not pleasant. I mean, there's a suicide hotline for a reason, and that's what a lot of them are debating, and so to put off not being your true self, I think is just, you're going to regret it. You're going to regret every year you were hidden. I mean, you can get over the money, you can get over you can find a new job. There are going to be firms out there, if you're talented, there, that find you, that need your talent, need your insight, welcome your insight. You may have to move out of your state. You may have to, whatever. But I just can't. I just don't. You worked this hard to become an architect, and we all know it's not easy,
right?
And put in that much dedication. This will give you so much happiness and fulfillment, and you'll be a better architect.
Thank you.
I would do it. Yeah, I would.
Thank you for sharing that.
I would always do it sooner or later. And I think the times are different. I mean, if I would have done it when I was, 20 or 30, it would have been a totally different time.
Yeah, and that's not necessarily your age. It's more of the time of the society.
It's the time. It was the political thing. And I think back, and it's like, I mean, I knew this since I was 8 years old, or so. And you go, well, should I should I have transitioned? And I was like, well, I probably, but I'd have a totally different life. I would still be an architect, but it would be different. Would it be better? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, the trade-offs. I mean, I had a family, I had kids. I mean, so there's different trade-offs, but you don't know what the future is going to be. So you got to be true to yourself as soon as you can.
And what would you say, Katherine, to people who don't understand, who see you and hear your story, and they just don't get it? Because the reason I ask that question is because an opportunity like this, where you're on the podcast, somebody who's listening may not understand what we're talking about here. Why would you do this? Is there something you can say that can help them better understand what we're talking about?
Well, I mean, I think, again, I mean, if we equate it to becoming an architect, most architects that I've run into or know seem that it was always a passion. It was very much a burning passion, and they went through whatever obstacle they had to become an architect. And you could equate it to kind of the same thing. It's like, well, okay, you've got this burning passion, and now someone's telling you can't do that. You're never going to be, you want to be an architect. You can see it, what architects are. You may even know architects, but you're not going to be it. You can't be that. And it's not because you're not talented enough. It's not because you're not skilled enough, or that you have, the knowledge, whatever, or the drive. You're just never going to be it. And so, what would that do to you? Or, you could say a painter or an artist, or whatever, or your passion's fly fishing. You can never fly fish again. You can sit on the shore and watch, but you can never do it again. So to have that sort of burning desire or passion essentially taken away, or never be able to realize, I mean, what would that do to you? That would eat you up. That would put a hole in you. That would make you mean and angry.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's the same thing. It's just a driving itch that you can't scratch. I mean, and there's all sorts of debates about mental. Well, they're not debates anymore. It's medically proven. But there's a lot of misunderstanding about sexuality and orientation and gender and all that. But you don't go through this transition. You don't do this on a lark. I mean, this is a difficult road without getting into all the details. It's not easy.
Yeah. Katherine, thank you for sharing that. Let's wrap things up with our final question. We're talking to thousands of small firm architects right now. What's one thing that you would say that a small firm architect can do today to build a better business for tomorrow?
Well, I mean, for me, the hardest part, is the business side of it. I mean, really, you really have to focus on that. And I think, and getting a good, I mean, if it's a sole proprietor, you still need to have that, a good backup person, a good project manager, a good draftsman, a good project, architect or whatever. That's what I sort of still struggle with, is finding those good backup people.
Yeah.
And when you're on that cusp of, well, we can't right now. I mean, we can't take a lot of staff, but we need more staff. It's like you're always. And marketing, I'm just horrible at marketing and getting stuff out. And staying current with stuff. There's so much competition out there from the larger firms, from the design build people, from whatever. I mean, it's hard. I think probably the other thing that disturbs me is this is bigger than everything else, is we don't always perceive ourselves as bringing as much value to a client as we do. In that, and a lot of times, and I was having this discussion with a firm, an owner of a smaller firm last week, and they were saying, well, we had to compete with fees and all that kind of stuff. And I go, well, no, we don't want to compete on fees, and I was like, and I always remember what I heard a lecture from Sir Foster once, and he was saying, we work for nothing. Well, he doesn't work for nothing. He charges 22%.
Right.
But he works for nothing because when he gets done, he's beta tested it, he's tested it enough and done his homework that the client basically saved so much money and made his product so much better that 22% is meaningless. That's where we have to be. We bring so much value to a client and so much value to a project whether it's someone's house or someone, they live better, or someone's company. I mean, if it's a company or something like, they're in it to make money. Well, then make them more efficient. They'll make more money. They don't care what they pay you. So I don't see that as in our profession as much as we should. We've got so many times we get this commodity mentality. It drives me nuts.
It's a very wise answer to that question. I appreciate that. Her name is Katherine Georgeson, FAIA. The firm name is ORCHESTRA Design Studio, if you want to go see the work that Katherine's doing. StageArch.com, so it's ARCH, StageArch.com is the website. Katherine, I appreciate you for coming on with me and having this conversation and being so transparent and honest with your story. I hope that others hear it. I hope the people who need to hear it to understand will hear it. I also hope that people who are in a similar situation as you, who are struggling with their identity, can learn something from our conversation as well. So thank you very much for coming on today and sharing your knowledge and your experience here today at Entre Architect Podcast.
Well, thank you, Mark, for giving me this opportunity. And certainly, I mean, if there are transgender architects or somebody that's out there that's struggling or something, please, I mean, just look me up, send me an email. I'm on Facebook. Send me I'm easy to find. And I would love to hear from you or talk to you or help you through any questions or counseling.
Thank you, Katherine. Katherine's very active in the private Facebook group. So you can go to entrearchitect.com/group. entrearchitect.com/group will get you right into the Facebook group. And you can just search for Katherine there and you'll find her, and you can send her a DM and ask her any questions you might have. Katherine, thank you again. I appreciate you.
This has been great. Thank you.
If you liked this episode of Entre Architect Podcast, please share a rating, write a review, and share a link to this episode with a friend. That's how Entre Architect will grow to serve thousands more architects just like you. Thank you to our sponsors, ARCAT, FreshBooks, and Infratech Comfort Heaters for their support of this episode. Links to our sponsors and all the resources we discussed today are available at the show notes for this episode found at entrearchitect.com/podcast. Entre Architect is a member of the Gable Media Podcast Network. Gable Media is curated thought leadership for an audience dedicated to building a better world. Listen and subscribe to all the shows at gablemedia.com. That's GABL media.com. And check out Entre Architect Academy membership. Ready to edit business resources, live monthly business training for architects, a supportive architect community, and simple systems. Our new business system program developed for small firm entrepreneur architects just like you. It's all waiting for you right now at Entre Architect Academy membership, including AIA continuing education learning units. Come join me and hundreds of your entrepreneur architect peers. Visit entrearchitect.com/join to enroll today. Thank you for listening. Love, learn, and share what you know.
Imagine earning continuing education credits while doing exactly what you're doing right now. Well, you can. Gable Media has revolutionized the way you earn your continuing education credits with a groundbreaking approach. Forget running around town and scouring the internet for credit-worthy courses. Fulfill your CE requirements effortlessly by listening to engaging podcasts just like the one you're listening to now. Our podcasts are designed to educate, entertain, and inspire, all in a user-friendly environment. But wait, there's more. Architects, Gable Media is also approved as an AIA continuing education services provider. Upon completion, we handle everything, from reporting your hours directly to the AIA to storing your certificates in your personal Gable Media profile for your self-reporting needs. So follow the link in the show notes and start earning your credits in the most innovative and entertaining way possible with Gable Media.
Attention architects and creative minds, get ready to supercharge your brand with Build Your Brand, the podcast that's unlocking the secrets of branding success for creatives. Hey there, it's Mark Arlepage, founder of Entre Architect, and I'm inviting you to join my friend, architect marketing expert Jeff Eccles at Build Your Brand podcast, where he explores the captivating stories of the world's top brands and transforms their lessons into powerful moves for small firm architects and creatives like you. In Season 1, Jeff shares the thrilling tale of Southwest Airlines, where he dissects their journey to the summit and distills it into strategies tailor-made for you.
It's important to keep in mind that companies like Southwest compete in the real world, just like you, and face real-world challenges, just like you. You might be surprised at how similar those challenges are to the struggles that you grapple with on a day-to-day basis.
Don't miss out on your blueprint for success. Subscribe, tune in, and let's build your brand together.
You may have noticed that the very best brands in the world are also known for having somewhat unique corporate cultures. That's often the glue that holds everything together when they encounter those rough spots.
We don't do it because it inconveniences the passengers to whom we are primarily dedicated, the short haul, frequent flyer.
Follow the link in the show notes to subscribe to Build Your Brand today. Remember, no matter the size, the journey's the same. Your brand's journey to the top starts here.